all right. Hey guys, it's time for the Season 2 map preview. Blizzard just posted this on the forums. These maps are going to be going live on the 21st of May, where we are going to be getting rid of Port Alexander, Automaton, and Year Zero. So these three maps will be going out of the pool. Three of the bigger macro-oriented maps, and they are all being replaced with more medium distance maps. Some of them seem quite small, but there's special features which make the rush distance quite far. Speaking of those special features, there's rich Vespene geysers, purple gas as we call it, which is the equivalent of gold minerals, plus 40% per load. That's right, the biggest loads. Eat your celery, drink your pineapple juice, dirty load jokes aside. There's also inhibitor zone generators, old man fields, which slow you down, 35% move speed slowdown. And then we've got reduced mineral fields. What is that? That's basically just a mineral block. It's a mineral which you mine once. It's only 5 minerals and it disappears, and then you can open up a path on the map. So a bunch of cool features on these new maps. I did a first look through this post about half an hour ago, guys, and I didn't know about any of these features because I didn't read the post because these maps were like, a little bit iffy. And I've come back and done it again because everyone's told me there's mineral blocks, there's all these things I didn't even realize because I didn't read the text before, like a bright human being that I am. Acropolis is a relatively small map for macro plays. Vertical third base expansions are easier to acquire and protect on this map. The area in the middle encourages direct conflict in the early game, and destroying rocks creates more open passages. Okay, so let's go take a look at that map. As you can see, guys, I'm sorry, it's going to block out the bottom half when I overlay this, but main base, natural third, and then you can take your fourth vertically. You can go even 5 bases all along the edge of the map if you like that path. Obviously, then there's a massive distance between your expansion and your main, but it does kind of keep your expansions away from the middle of the map, away from your opponent, makes them have to push further to get to you. Otherwise, of course, you can go 1, 2, 3, and you could even go 4th, 5th, and just kind of take more of a triangular setup, where obviously there's a little bit more danger of your opponent kind of picking up here, hopping into your main, picking up, hopping there, and you are a little bit closer to the center of the map, where something like siege tanks on this high ground can set up for pushes onto these bases a lot easier without them having to come as deep. But you're a bit more compact. Your army from your 3rd to your 5th to your main, it's not as far to move. So it looks like an okay map here. You're going to notice there is high ground in the center. There is a little bit of sight blocker with a small gap between it. So big high ground area with hedges, really important area to control in TVT with siege tanks, where you can kind of branch off from here. In terms of just PVZ as a scenario we like to think of, main, natural third, where can the Zerg swarm you from with roaches, lings, hydras? This ramp, which they can widen by taking down those destructible rocks, pretty big ramp. Or this pretty big, not even a ramp, just a big opening. But because these are kind of right next to each other, you can just sit your army in the central location, same thing with mech, and you can cover all frontal ground-based attack avenues. Your third base being right in front of your natural means it's very easy to defend. By ground, we're going to see a lot more people trying to drop or nidus into the main base while hitting the front at the same time or distracting at the front to open up avenues on 3-base attacks. Even though it is not that large a map, right? Middle distance does not take that far, but because that third base is so close, it is still considered a macro map. So as I said, things like Port Alexander, Year Zero being taken out, we're seeing maps here which are still macro focused, but definitely like once you get to 4 bases, there's going to be so much harassment and so much power to aggressive pushes. You're probably not going to be sitting in your corner of the map and just teching up to Hive or teching up to, ghosts and whatnot, the same way we saw in Year Zero, the same way we saw in late game Automaton, and so on. So I'm pretty okay with this map. I'm curious to see how it goes. There's nothing really too crazy on this map. Doesn't actually have any other special features, does it? So let's take a look back. Next map is Thunderbird. Features rich, reduced mineral fields. So those mineral blockers is what that means. So there's paths blocked by minerals. And it also, reduced mineral fields can be mined to unlock additional expansions or attack paths. But this also has the purple gas on it as well, Thunderbird, which they didn't mention. So, wrong link. Let's go. Here it is. Okay, so this is Thunderbird. And as you can see, it's a bottom right, top left spawn map. We're really big on 2-player spawn maps, taking the randomness out of the competition, which pro players have asked for such a long time. And they seem to have gotten their way. I kind of miss 3 and 4-player maps. What can I say? You know, as someone who doesn't have money on the line, I kind of enjoy the randomness. At the same time, I do think that the competitors are in a pretty great spot, and the games that are coming out are fantastic, so I can't argue against it. So guys, in the middle of the map, we've got these very exposed expansions. Very exposed, very hard to defend, but they've got purple gases, which same as gold minerals, plus 40% per trip. So your workers, basically, you end up just getting 40% more out of it, which is a pretty big boost. But, like, I don't know. I can imagine a Zerg player in ZVP late game getting a big boost out of this base. Using a big Broodlord army, spores covering everywhere, that sort of shit, right? Maybe in PvT, a Protoss player who's sieging the opponent with, like, Tempests and has built cannons all through the middle and shield batteries and has, like, Disruptors and Storm covering it, actually gets to use this base. Outside of that scenario, you're never going to see this rushed in the early game. Who knows? SOS, Bly, Haas, maybe one of the crazy players will be like, oh, I just take that as my first base, and with the bonus gas, I get more Archons or something. You're like, okay, I didn't see this coming. It's going to be pretty rare. Plock says, it'll be good for a Muta build, Kappa. Yeah, sure. The build, which is incapable of fighting front on, will expand to just outside their opponent's base and go, I hope you don't attack this. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see how that goes. What's more interesting about this map is those mineral blockers, guys. So I was like, where are they? What are you even talking about, people? Thankfully, some awesome people have linked me up some pictures. So thank you to Proxy Battlecruiser, who was kind enough to create this little image for me. These paths actually have 2 layers of minerals. So you would need to send a worker, mine 5 minerals, and then return it, come back and mine another 5 minerals, and then you have a single space open gap, very tight opening. Or you could bring 4 workers all at once and open up a big, thick, two space wide opening in one go, right? In the middle, this is a single space one and a single space one as well. So you could literally bring 2 drones with a 12 pool just ahead of time, mine 5 minerals, go through, mine 5 minerals, and you've got a path straight from your natural to your opponent's base. Your units have to go through, more or less single file, but that's fine. And maybe you build some spines in their base. If you're doing like a drone pool or a drilly boy all in, you're doing like a 3 barracks marine and you pull the SCVs, you can just easily mine through here. It's no issue. But otherwise, it just adds this like interesting feature where it's like, oh, when do I take this down? And once it gets to the later stages, it's really hard to take that down, right? So say this is up and you're this player in the bottom right. You've got main, natural, third. You're like, cool, this is my base layout, awesome. And then like it gets to the late game and your opponent wants to attack here. What are they going to do? They're going to bring like 10 probes with them, and they're going to be like, and you've got like a tank behind you, and it's like killing these probes as they're running up one at a time and trying to like open the path up. So it's kind of funny where like if these don't get taken down earlier in the game, they could potentially be very hard to like find the opening to take them down later in the game. That being said, chat's been making a very good point, which is mules. Mules? That's it. Battle mules, guys. You're rotating down here with a big army. You see their army moving back to defend their third. You scan, you drop 6 mules, and you mine the fucking wall open. You literally drop mules to open up an attack path. How cool is that? That'll be so hilarious, dude. And if you're Zerg or Protoss, well, you better just sneak some drones and probes in to do that. Obviously, you can always just plan to take these down earlier in the game by sending a single zealot or, single worker over there and just, 2 workers and trying to open it up early, saying, let's make sure my opponent doesn't have that defensive path. We're going to see SOS take a base here to get more Archons, but then he's also going to have a Prism come, take one of the probes. He's going to like drop it here. Bam, snatch the minerals, pick up, return, drop it. He's going to run around like a Prism with 8 probes, opening up attack paths for his Archons and DTs to come in. No, I don't know. This is going to be weird. This is a new mechanic in StarCraft. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure there'll be a lot of preemptive taking them down ahead of time. I'm sure there'll be weird positions where because it doesn't get taken down, you say this is basically a permanent wall. If there's not a Terran player willing to drop a bunch of mules, like this is a permanent wall that you just can't really take down if it's guarded later in the game. And that's interesting. Outside of these special features on the map, of course, it is low ground in the middle there, high ground there, high ground there. Once again, very important areas in like a mid-game TVT for siege tanks to hold these areas. But I like that there's, if you hold one, there's plenty of room around the sides. Now, if those paths aren't down, it is a pretty long rush distance to their natural, or both of these pretty far, but you take these down, you get a much more direct path to each other. So fascinating to see how this map turns out. Once again, you do have the option of going main, natural, third. It has to be a triangle, but from there, you could go fourth, fifth, and your opponent could also go fourth, fifth, and you could kind of end up, okay, bottom player goes bottom, top player goes top. Or you could very well end up in a position where this player's like, I want my fourth here. And this player's like 1, 2, 3, and they're like, I want my fourth here. And then you end up with fourth base there, fourth base there. Controlling this area becomes pretty friggin' important, especially if we're talking about splash damage coming in, right? Psystorm, Disruptors in PvT, Colossus, Siege Tanks in TVT, or any matchup. Lots of impressive ones. People were asking before as well, what are these? These are sight blockers, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure these are like the sight blockers, but they just look like fancy lights. But I'm pretty sure that's a sight blocker, that's a sight blocker, that's a sight blocker, that's a sight blocker. And there's a little one. Oh, there's a watchtower there, by the way, and there. So there's corner watchtowers. I love that watchtowers are in these more niche positions these days. They're not kind of dominating the center of the map. I think if you've got the center of the map, the last thing you need is the reward of having a watchtower that sees everything. Whereas having a watchtower in the corner, which is like, it's kind of useful if you're in late game fighting for this corner, but it's not as central to the map, that makes me happy. So yeah, guys, this should be pretty awesome. Pretty keen for this map. We will see how it plays out. Let's look at the final map, Turbo Cruise 84. I believe I saw people complaining about this one on Twitter, saying they're just going to veto it or something like that. Sorry, I shouldn't have opened it here. Never mind. It features inhibitor zone generators, aka slow fields, or I like to call them a few dirty names. Anyway, we'll save that for later. In this small map, rows of these inhibitor zone generators make the initial rush distance longer. So let's take a look at that map. These are the the boner killers. You look at this map, you say, cool, I can get across this map really fast to my opponent's natural. Isn't that great? And we'll load it up in the other screen, by the way. It takes friggin' forever. My internet's derping at the moment. But yeah, you can see it looks like a reasonably short rush distance, but those yellow bloomy fields in the middle are actually these inhibitor generators. These ones here. So they're going to slow your movement speed as you go through. I actually think this is just the BattleNet server being shit. Now, are we in 1997? Am I trying to download the pornography and it downloads one line from top to bottom like this, and you're going, what's it going to be? And then, of course, someone's photoshopped it, so there's something really gross at the bottom, but you don't know, and it takes 5 minutes to get there. Shout out to the old men watching, the old ladies and men who remember looking up porn in the old days. It was terrible. There we go. Slow field, slow field, slow field. We've also got a semi-slow field. You can go around that one, though. 35% movement speed nerf if you are there. And yeah, I don't think it slows attack speed at all. Should be good. Once again, 1, 2, 3. You can expand up to the corner. There's this whole corner area. It's got some high ground. Or you can go 4, 5 and take the corner, which is probably, I think more people will do that just because getting over to this base to defend it's quite far. Kind of depends, though. Sometimes you'll get forced into that. Don't believe we have any watchtowers on this map. Definitely doesn't look like it. Yeah, no purple mineral fields, no mineral blockers. It's literally just those slow fields which create this awkward area that you just cannot get rid of in the middle of the map. I don't think you can kill them. I don't believe it affects air units. I haven't heard an exact answer on this. I'm sure there's one hardcore nerd who's been following all the map tournaments who's actually awake when Wardy streams, who's going to let me know in chat. Hopefully one of my regulars in chat can give us feedback on that. Someone who watches a lot more StarCraft on the EU time zone than I get to. But yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that's kind of weird because people are just not going to want to move through these areas. Defending these areas with splash damage is going to be immensely powerful. It does slow air units as well, chat saying. Awesome, thank you. Thank you guys for letting me know. So storms on that, disruptor shots into that, tank shots, colossus shots, all that shit is going to be really good at slowing that stuff down and just holding them, which means there's going to be a lot more moving around the edges and coming in from those areas, sending drops and harassment around to the main base. And I guess it's going to be weird because you look at this map and you say if you take out the inhibitor zones, 90% of the fighting is just going to be this central area. This is going to be everything. There might be the occasional flank around and then come in from behind, but that's going to be the fighting. You look at these inhibitor zones and you say, is the fighting actually just going to move to the sides of the map? Or is the fact that it's such a direct route not going to change it? People are going to start just going through it. This is going to be a learning process. Once again, a brand new mechanic. People are going to have to figure out how this plays. And I love this experimentation. People are going to have some really angry moments. There's going to be some funny GIFs on Reddit. It's going to be fantastic. We'll see how it plays out. I'm just going to stay flexible, figure it out, play this for a week or two, and see how it goes. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for hanging out. If you do want to see the maps for 2v2 and so on, we'll take a really quick look at them. Divergence is in the map pool. Okay. Looks like a 4-player map. 1, 2, oh my god, 2. Okay, gold bases, but blocked by rocks. 3, 4. Oh, this is a very interesting map, guys, because you go right? So it's like it's not a far rush distance, but there's like all this shit blocking you in the middle, so your units like move around derpily. And there's just not a lot of expansions. Like these gold bases, you got to clear rocks to get them. And wait. Right, this is a 2-player map, right? I just realized. I was like, oh, because there's starting location markers, it must be a 4-player map. Then I realized these are just base location markers. It is a 2v2 map. That makes a lot more sense. I was like, this map's insane for 4v4. There's no bases on it. It's a 2v2 map. So you do actually get expansions down the front here. And then you've got these corners that you can expand to. And the gold bases are quite exposed to drop harass and air harass and stuff. But I like the middle area. That looks fun. Plenty of space to come around from behind and the edges and the flanks. Big enough wide open areas, but with some huge blockers. That means with proper splash damage positioning, you can, really mess up armies trying to come through here. Looks like a cool map. I like it. All right, so that's Divergence. We've got Bone Temple. This is where they took all the bones off the inhibitor generators and they made a temple of them over here. Fuck me, that's never going to load, is it? Holy shit balls. Never mind, guys. We'll come back and talk, I guess, about the rest of the 2v2 maps in a little bit. A lot of people think there's going to be a lot of rage in the slow fields. Yes, I agree. I do think those are going to be massively... people are going to rage really hard at that stuff. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, these maps load slower than anything. We've also got Sunset Valley. Yeah. Yep. So what maps did they get rid of again in 2v2? Yeah, I think they set it up the top, right? They got rid of Olzan, Blacksite, and Last Impact. Olzan's been around for such a long time. Cool to see that go, though. Good to see they're actually putting 3 new maps in here. That's the only 2v2 map, 1 3v3 map, and 1 4v4 map. Okay, cool. You guys can go look it up yourself. Sorry, shit's loading. Don't want to make the video any longer. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I will probably do a rehash on these maps and how to play them at some point in the future. It takes me a few weeks to really get a handle on new maps, though. So give us a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks from now, I'll have some thoughts to share on the follow-up, and we'll see if these are some awesome mechanics and what cool shit we can do with them. Thanks for watching, guys.